The garden party celebrating my parents' 30th anniversary was exactly the kind of event my sister Lisa excelled at organizing: elegant white tents, catered hors d'oeuvres, and a carefully curated guest list of successful neighbors and family friends. I arrived 20 minutes late, having rushed from my weekly treatment at the cancer center, still feeling slightly nauseous from the infusion. At 31, I'd become accustomed to being the family disappointment at these gatherings. While Lisa had built her event planning business into a local empire, I spent most of my time in hospitals and doctors' offices, managing what had become a full-time job: staying alive. There she is. Lisa's voice carried across the garden with that particular tone of forced enthusiasm she used when drawing attention to my perpetual lateness. Our little hypochondriac finally made it. The cluster of guests around her laughed politely, though I caught a few sympathetic glances from neighbors who'd known me since childhood. Lisa had been telling anyone who'd listen about my medical obsession for the past 8 months, ever since my diagnosis. "Sorry I'm late," I said, accepting a glass of sparkling water from a passing waiter. "Treatment ran longer than expected." "Treatment," Lisa repeated with air quotes, ensuring her audience caught the sarcasm. "Everyone, this is my sister Amanda. She's convinced she has cancer." The word hung in the air like a challenge. A well-dressed woman I didn't recognize looked uncomfortable, but Lisa's husband Mark jumped in with practiced ease. "It's really quite fascinating from a psychological perspective," Mark said, his voice carrying the authority of someone who'd taken exactly one psychology course in college. "The way some people use medical appointments as a form of identity." I felt my jaw clench but forced a smile. "It's actually pancreatic neuroendocrine tumors. Stage 3. "Stage 3 what?" Lisa laughed, but there was an edge to it now. "Amanda, you've been claiming different stages and different types for months. Last time it was liver involvement, before that it was some rare genetic mutation. Do you even keep track of your own stories?" The guests shifted uncomfortably. A few began drifting toward the dessert table, sensing the family tension that was threatening to overshadow the celebration. "I know this is hard to understand," I said quietly, "but cancer isn't always straightforward. My tumors are." "Tumors?" Mark interrupted with a theatrical gasp. "Now we have multiple tumors. Amanda, do you realize how this sounds to people who actually work in healthcare?" Mark was a pharmaceutical sales rep, which apparently qualified him as a medical expert in his own mind. My phone buzzed with a text from Dr. Patel's office. "Emergency scan results review needed. Can you come in tonight? Significant changes on today's imaging." Significant changes. That phrase never meant good news in oncology. "If you'll excuse me," I said, pulling out my phone, "I need to check this message." "More medical drama?" Lisa asked loudly, ensuring everyone could hear. "Let me guess. Another emergency appointment that absolutely can't wait until Monday?" I looked at the message again. Dr. Patel wanted to see me tonight on a Saturday for emergency scan results. That meant progression, complications, or both. The party continued around me while I absorbed the implications of Dr. Patel's message. Emergency scan reviews on weekends meant one thing in oncology. Something had changed dramatically, and not in a good way. "Amanda's always been dramatic," Lisa was explaining to a group of her clients. "Even as kids, she'd claim she was sick to get out of school, get attention, avoid responsibility. This is just the adult version." I typed a quick response to Dr. Patel. "Can be there in an hour." "How urgent?" His reply came immediately. "Very urgent. Bringing in the full team. Prepare for significant discussion about next steps." Full team. That meant not just Dr. Patel but likely Dr. Rodriguez from surgical oncology, Dr. Chin from medical oncology, and possibly even the palliative care specialists. They only assembled the full team for major decisions or when standard treatments had stopped working. "The thing is," Mark was saying to anyone who'd listen, "real cancer patients look sick. They lose their hair, they lose weight dramatically. Look at Amanda, she looks perfectly healthy." Perfectly healthy. I touched my scalp self-consciously, where my hair had started growing back after months of chemotherapy. The cold cap treatments had saved some of it, but Mark apparently expected me to look like a cancer patient from a medical textbook. "Exactly," agreed Mrs. Henderson from down the street. "My husband went through prostate cancer and you could tell he was really sick. Amanda just looks tired." Mom appeared beside me, her face strained with the effort of maintaining party hostess mode while her daughters argued about medical diagnoses in front of the guests. "Girls, please," she whispered. "This is your father's and my celebration. Can we save the family drama for later?" "It's not drama, Mom," I said quietly. "I just got a message from Dr. Patel. He needs to see me tonight for emergency scan results." Lisa overheard and laughed loudly. "Emergency scan results on Saturday night? Amanda, even you have to admit how convenient that timing is. Right when people are starting to question your story." "Question her story?" Mrs. Henderson looked confused. "Amanda's been claiming she has pancreatic cancer for 8 months, Lisa explained. Supposedly getting chemotherapy twice a week, having regular scans, the whole production. But look at her. Does she look like someone battling advanced cancer?" I felt my phone buzz again. Another message from Dr. Patel. "Amanda, I know this is difficult timing, but the progression we're seeing is significant. We need to discuss immediate treatment changes. The full medical team will be there." Progression. Treatment changes. The words every cancer patient dreaded. "You know what?" I said, loud enough for the surrounding conversations to quiet. "You want proof? Fine." I pulled out my phone and opened my medical app, where all my scan results and lab reports were stored. The most recent CT scan from that morning showed the unmistakable reality of my condition: tumors that had grown despite aggressive treatment. "These are today's scans," I said, holding up the phone so everyone could see the medical images. "Pancreatic neuroendocrine tumors with hepatic metastases. Stage 4 progression." The garden party had gone completely silent. Before anyone could process what they were looking at on my phone, a commotion at the garden gate drew everyone's attention. A convoy of medical vehicles was pulling up to the house. Not ambulances, but the kind of discreet black cars that hospital administrators used for house calls. "Amanda Chin?" Dr. Patel himself stepped through the garden gate, followed by what appeared to be half the oncology department from University Medical Center. "I apologize for interrupting your family celebration, but we couldn't wait until Monday." Lisa's face went completely white as she recognized the formal medical delegation entering her perfectly orchestrated party. "Dr. Patel," I said, my voice surprisingly steady, "this is my family's anniversary party. I understand, and I wouldn't interrupt unless this was critical." Dr. Patel looked around at the stunned guests, then back to me. "Amanda, your scan results show significant progression. We need to discuss immediate palliative options and possibly experimental treatments." Palliative options. The phrase hit the garden party like a physical blow. Palliative. Mom's voice was barely a whisper. Dr. Rodriguez stepped forward. "Mrs. Chin, I'm Dr. Rodriguez, head of surgical oncology. Your daughter has been battling advanced pancreatic cancer for 8 months with remarkable courage. Unfortunately, today's imaging shows the tumors have progressed beyond our current treatment protocols." Lisa was staring at the assembled medical team as if they were aliens. "But she looks fine." "Ma'am," Dr. Chin from medical oncology spoke gently, "Amanda has been one of our most compliant patients. She's endured aggressive chemotherapy, radiation therapy, and multiple surgical consultations while maintaining an extraordinarily positive attitude." Mark found his voice first. "You're saying she actually has cancer?" "Stage 4 pancreatic neuroendocrine tumors with hepatic metastases," Dr. Patel confirmed. "Amanda has been fighting for her life while apparently dealing with family skepticism about her diagnosis. That kind of stress significantly impacts treatment outcomes." The anniversary party guests stood frozen, champagne glasses forgotten in their hands, as the reality of the situation sank in. Mrs. Henderson burst into tears. "Oh my God, Amanda. We had no idea." "You had no idea," Dr. Rodriguez said quietly, "because she chose to protect you from the full severity of her condition while fighting one of the most challenging cancers we treat." The elegant white party tents suddenly felt like a surreal backdrop for end-of-life medical consultations. The anniversary party ended abruptly as guests fled in horror, realizing they'd been mocking a terminal cancer patient. Lisa's event planning business collapsed within weeks when the story spread. No one wanted celebrations organized by someone who'd publicly ridiculed her dying sister. Mark lost his pharmaceutical sales position when his company learned he'd been providing medical misinformation about cancer patients. his credibility in healthcare was permanently destroyed. The experimental treatment Dr. Patel recommended worked better than expected. 6 months later, I achieved partial remission, but the family dynamics never recovered. Mom and Dad spent their remaining years consumed by guilt, knowing they'd let Lisa's skepticism override their daughter's medical reality. Mrs. Henderson became one of my strongest advocates, speaking at cancer support groups about family denial. Lisa's perfect garden party became a cautionary tale in our community about the dangers of dismissing someone's illness as attention-seeking behavior. I never attended another family celebration. I was usually too busy with treatment, support groups, or speaking engagements about cancer advocacy. The medical team's dramatic arrival had saved my life in more ways than one. It ended my family's denial and gave me the support I needed to fight.